don't care, though, because the judges are over here. So, nice seeing you.
There's one judge over there.
Oh, there is? Oh, sorry. Two very brief stories about working, a job I used to have working as a documentary sound guy. First, I have to tell you, thank you. First, I got to tell you, I have a really bad problem with names and faces. I have real trouble associating outside of context. I need context. So if I'm used to you at work and we run into each other at a museum, there's a really good chance I'm not going to know who you are, because that's just the way my brain is wired. And it's never been, it's gotten me into trouble. I've had to develop some coping strategies like, hey, you, how is everybody? And it's come back to haunt me quite a few times. I was working on a documentary about education, and there was we were doing a profile of a teacher who was working with kids with really severe learning disabilities. Not only that, but these were kids who came from the worst backgrounds imaginable. I mean, poverty, sexual abuse, physical abuse, drugs. These kids just had no chance. And she had been developing these techniques that were actually showing a lot of success. So much so that they gave her a grant to develop them into a curriculum that could be used around the country. So we were shooting this profile of her, and a documentary profile is usually you go in, you shoot the person, what they do, and then you shoot an interview with them so you get the details. So we're going to shoot her working with the kids, and I go to put a wireless mic on her, which we have to hide. The producer walks me down, and we walk into the room, and she turns around, and she's a pretty petite blonde in her late 20s, and she turns around, she goes, "How are you?" And I go, "Hey, you." And she gives me a big hug, and the person goes, "Oh, how do you guys know each other?" And I look at her, and she's not saying anything. So I use one of my coping mechanisms, which is to make a joke. I'm like, "Oh, we go way back to the late 50s. It was that sailor bar in Singapore, wasn't it, my dear?" I laugh, she laughs, he laughs. I gotta get a mic on her, you get out of here. So I go into my spiel, which is designed to make a person feel more comfortable about me putting my hands up their shirt. And I get about a sentence into it, and she goes, "Oh, no, stop. It's not like you haven't seen it all before." And she lifts up her shirt. Now I'm worried. Not only do I not know who she is, but I have no idea who she thinks I am. So we shoot her with the kids, and she's wonderful with the kids, and we shoot the interview with her, and I'm listening to the interview, trying to make some sort of connection. How do I know this woman? How do I know this woman? I just no clue. At the end of the day, I go to get the wireless mic back, and she gives me this big hug, and she whispers in my ear, "Thank you so much for not saying anything." And I look at her and I go, "Quite honestly, I have no idea what you're talking about." She goes, "That's great, thank you," and gives me another hug, and I go on my way, no idea who she is. Story 2. This happened a couple of years before this. I don't do porn. You're welcome. So, I've been requested to do porn as a sound guy several times. I always say, I don't do porn. 2 reasons. 1, outside of Southern California, most jurisdictions don't recognize the difference between shooting porn and prostitution, and I don't want that on my record. And 2, they can't afford me. I'm not bragging, it's just, for those of you who've never seen porn, wink, 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 they don't really put a lot of emphasis on the sound, right? You can always put the in later, right? So they're not going to pay for a guy like me. So when the producer called and said, "We're going to do this," and I said, "I don't do porn," he goes, "We're not shooting porn, we're shooting people shooting porn." And I said, "What's the difference?" And he said, "Well, for instance, you will be the highest paid person on the crew, because all the other guys took a deal to see, naked boobies." I couldn't very well turn down being the highest paid person on the crew for the first time in my career, so I took the job. The profile was about a young couple up in Bucks County who were doing amateur porn for the internet in their own home to make extra money to make ends meet on the side. So we do what we do in a documentary. We shoot them doing what they're doing, then we shoot an interview. So we shoot them shooting the porn video, which is about as sexy as shooting somebody getting a physical while a bunch of plumbers lay in a sewer line. I mean, it's a lot of, okay, move the light, bend your back, flip over, move your leg. And, you know, I can't hide a wireless mic on anybody because they're naked. So I got to boom all this, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm always keeping eye contact. And you know, it's kind of just not a comfortable situation. But the people were lovely. They were just nice people. They made us lunch. She made us lunch, naked. So then we do the interview, and he's a tall, skinny, bearded guy in his early 30s, and she's this petite blonde in her late 20s. And we're talking to him for a while. How long had you get into this? How much money are you making? And one of the questions was, you doing this full time? And he says, well, I shoot and edit and handle all the business, so I'm doing it full time. And she says, well, I have a full-time job on the side. It's where we get our benefits, and it's what I really love doing. And he goes, well, what do you do? And she goes, do I have to tell you? He goes, no, just tell us what general field you're in. She goes, I'm a school teacher. Thanks.